Do you feel like everything that you've seen and known about America is being stripped from you? I mean, you grew up respecting the flag and the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem, but now we're told that those things aren't inclusive. They're almost a national embarrassment. You grew up believing in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream of where we judge people by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. But now we have an all-American company, Coca-Cola, telling their employees to be less white. Why didn't they tell them to have more character? And I don't know, the fact is the left is going crazy, rewriting history and changing culture to adopt a Marxist perspective. And it's happening at lightning speed. We've even lost attachment to common words and their meanings. If we lose that, how will we even communicate? Fortunately, there are a few heroes who are willing to stand up and push back when necessary, regardless of the cost. Among them are Kevin and Sam Sorbo. And you know Kevin Sorbo. I mean, he's a famous actor. He was the star of Hercules. And his wife, Sam, you know her too. She's an accomplished actress, she's a filmmaker, she's an author, and she's a homeschool mom. We've had her in the Economic War Room before, and we're thrilled to have her back. Welcome, Sam Sorbo.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back.
Yeah, well, Sam, you've written an amazing new book, Words for Warriors. I started reading it and I realized it is not an ordinary book. It's more a reference guide for the culture war. And I especially like the story in the introduction where you're talking with your kids about the concept of wealth. If you don't mind, would you please share that story with our viewers?
So I actually shared that story with a young person today. And the question that I ask people is, how is wealth created? And I usually get blank stares because people go, well, the government prints the money. Money's not wealth. Wealth is value. How is value created? How is wealth created? And so the answer to that is that if I have an iPhone, but I have 3 iPhones, and you have $5,000, but you don't have an iPhone, if you give me $800, I'll sell you my iPhone. I don't need it. I've got 2 others. You don't need the $800. You got 4,200 others. And so we do a free, it has to be freely given exchange, right?
Right, free market exchange.
In that exchange, who exits that exchange wealthier? And the answer to that question, it's a stumper. The answer to that question is both parties, because it's a free exchange. And that is how wealth is created. Wealth is spiritual. It's actually, it's really an incredible concept when you think about it, because I had the iPhone and it was the same value when I had it, except it was less valuable to me. And I am wealthier now with your $800, but you're much wealthier now with an iPhone, even though it cost you $800. If the exchange is not free, the whole thing is broken and it doesn't work. But then I went on from that because my kids were asking me about why we have to go to class to have conversations. And the reason is because in conversations, there is a trading, there is an exchange of ideas that is freely given and taken typically. And when that happens, we gain in the wealth of knowledge that we have, the wealth of intelligence we gain. When that is curtailed, as the left tries to do, they try to silence our speech. They try to silence any dissent, any conversation, any discussion, any debate. That is actually trying to suppress wealth generation. And of course, you and I both know the left is against wealth. They hate wealth.
Well,
they only like it for themselves.
Yeah, they hate your wealth. They like their wealth. And I think that's the thing. If they can concentrate and control all of this, they're able to skim off whatever they need for their purposes. I mean, I'm thinking of this H.R. 1 bill, that has this provision in it to where if you're running for Congress, you can get a salary off of your campaign that's paid by tax dollars up to $600,000. I mean, it's the whole idea. All animals are equal. Some animals are more equal than others.
That's exactly right. We have to, the point is that we have to stand up to that. And the other reason that we have to stand up to that is because what the left seeks, silence, will lead to violence. It's inevitable. And I'm not advocating for it. They advocate for it by their very methodology. So the way that the book came about was I sort of woke up one day and realized fascism is not right wing. The left wants us to believe that fascism is a distinctly right wing phenomenon. The right wing fascists, the Nazi right wing fascists. That's just completely incorrect. It's an oxymoron to say a right-wing fascist, and I stress the moron part of that word. Fascism is leftism. It's communism, socialism. It has everything they have the same artwork, they have the same coloring, they have the same violent tendencies and tactics, bullying tactics, right? And so when I realized that they had actually managed to sort of pervert the meaning of the word, or the interpretation of the word, I went, oh my gosh, this is a terrible thing. What the left seeks to do, and by the way, they are liberal fascists. That's what they all are now. They just took Kevin off of Facebook. That's fascism. That's not allowing somebody to express himself freely is fascism. Now you can couch it behind, well, they're a private company, sure, but it's still fascism. I don't care how, what else you want to call it. It's still, and so political correctness is fascism. And I want to sum this up. When you have a small child who is starting to hit and bite, you stop him, you say, no, use your words. Why do you say that? Because the words, the conversation, the debate, the diplomacy is our last ditch effort before violence. If the left can succeed at silencing dissent, violence will ensue, and the left loves violence.
That's a great point. And you've got a quote in your book. It says, because words are our thoughts, and our thoughts are our prosperity. If you take that away, you're taking away people's ability to generate wealth, enjoyment, express themselves, and you're exactly right. It does lead to violence.
Right. And so that's the point of the book. That's why I wrote the book. But I did have a lot of fun with the book. The word that follows fascism in the book is feargasm. That's a word that was coined by rocker Ted Nugent. COVIDiots is in the book because there's, that's a Chris Plant word. So there's a lot of fun in the book. I really want to encourage people. If you don't use it, you will lose it. And we need to start using our language properly, because if they succeed in not just silencing us, but making our language meaningless, violence will ensue. Like it's part of the plan. And they love violence. They love violence. I mean, we saw it last summer when we had all the riots, and the left was just cheering them on and saying, oh, they don't need masks in the middle of the pandemic. Oh, they don't need masks. They should just go out. We need to give them the space to riot. They were destroying minority-owned businesses in minority neighborhoods. And the left doesn't care about the minorities. The Democrat Party doesn't care about the minorities, clearly. And you judge somebody by their actions, not by their words, especially the left, because the left lies all the time.
Sam, we're going to need to take a break. When we come back, I want you to talk about some of the words in your book, and just walk through and explain the definitions to us, and tell us where all this is heading, and then we'll ultimately talk about what we can do about it. So let's take a break. We're speaking with Sam Sorbo about her amazing book. I think it's a reference book for our culture war. It's titled Words for Warriors, Fight Back Against Crazy Socialists and the Toxic Liberal Left. Sam, dive into some of those words that you've used, the definitions that you have, and just you mentioned a couple of them before the break, but dive in and tell us a few of those words.
Well, okay, before I do, I want to give you a good reference point. I know that the title Words for Warriors is a bit of a tongue twister, but it's a play on Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. And it is in a sense a little bit of a guidebook or a reference book for folks out there. We need to take back our language. Our language in the beginning was what? The word. I mean, it's the foundation. It's fundamental. And or to use a word that they're using a lot today, essential. Our words are essential. So one word that I want to start with is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a word that's little understood. And so it's got a nice big entry in the book because I think it's a very important word. It originated from a Patrick Hamilton play, which was called Gaslight. It was made into a movie with Ingrid Bergman. And it was about a woman who married a man who wanted to do away with her. And so what he did was he enlisted the help of their servants to convince her that she was going crazy. So the servants would dump a big tray of cutlery on the floor, and she'd say, "Oh my gosh, did you hear that noise?" And by the time she ran downstairs to find out what had happened, the servants were instructed to tell her nothing happened. They didn't hear anything. There was nothing going on. The title comes from the gas lights because it's an older piece, right? So the house was lit by gas lights. He kept turning them down, making her think that she couldn't see very well anymore. And this is what the left is doing to us.
Oh, yeah. Every
day. So a man is a woman. What? I'm sorry. Are you kidding me? And yet it's also, there's the salami tactic, right? It's just a slice at a time. And we have to be careful because, my gosh, if they can take away womanhood, then what was the suffragette movement for? What was any of it for, right? Then they're taking away our entire culture. And if they can convince us that the 1619 Project is true, and that America is simply a racist nation and can't ever escape their racist roots, well, you know what that devolves into. That devolves into unforgiveness, that there is no forgiveness ever for anything, which is kind of where the culture is right now. And that's a very sad place to be because, frankly, we've all done something that we regret. And if forgiveness is not available to the nation at large, trust me, it's not available to the individual.
No question. And you know, in the vein of gaslighting, they tell us Antifa is just an expression of civil rights. But if you were standing outside the Capitol on January 6th in prayer or singing hymns, you're a domestic terrorist. I mean, how in the world do we get to where the language has been co-opted to such a degree?
Well, up is down, right is wrong. The left lies all the time. And the Democrat Party has been hijacked by the left, by staunch left-wing communist, anti-God, fascist, progressive, Marxist, socialist. And don't come at me with democratic socialism. There is no such thing. The best example of, or the best definition for democratic socialism I can give you is that it's socialism that everybody voted, that the majority of people voted on. And the sad thing is that that's what we're facing in this nation. We have democratic socialists serving in our Congress. They're communists. They're the watermelon party. They're green on the outside and red on the inside. And all they seek is power because the fascists and the leftists only seek power. They only want to control you. And by the way, that's what the mask is all about. It's to shut you up. It's to curtail your words and curtail your ability to access the truth. The left hates the truth. Why? Because they lie. And the only thing, the most intolerant thing that we know is the truth. The truth won't tolerate a lie. Gravity is gravity. And so you can climb up, you can argue with gravity, and you can climb up to the 27th story of a building and you can tell gravity, you have to tolerate me because I want to fly. And you can jump off that building, but gravity will win in the end because it's the truth. And the left knows this. And that's why they can't allow my husband to speak freely on Facebook. Mind you, all he was saying was, hey, did you consider this side of things? Did you see this CDC report that actually discredits the later report? Did you see this thing that Fauci said that actually contradicts the thing that he said after that? And they can't have that. They can't have the truth.
Well, truth is ever evolving, right? There's no absolute truth. It's ever evolving.
So their truth.
Yeah.
Their truth. Here's the thing. If you don't believe that there are absolutes, my question is, do you believe that absolutely? Exactly. Their truth, there is no such thing as their truth and my truth. There is only one truth.
That, in the end, you're exactly right. One of the other words that came up is social justice. Those things sound so good. What does it mean in the current language?
Yeah, if you need to modify the word justice, you're lying. There is only one justice. There is only one truth. And so it's like saying a social truth. Well, the social truth is, no, there's only one truth. Social justice is basically a way of forcing the right and the truth believers to compromise. And this is where I really struggle, because when we start to compromise like that, Ayn Rand said that in any compromise between good and evil, evil wins, which is true. Because there is the good, and then there are all these not good, these phases of not good. And so everything that's not of the good is off the mark, right? When we're talking about justice and we have to modify it, it's a lie. And when they succeed in getting us to take in the lie and to acknowledge the lie and to support the lie, we are compromised. We are compromising ourselves. So somebody said to me today, Kevin, your husband is such a hero because he's really standing up, and he's sacrificing so much. And I said to him, please, let's stop using the left's language for what my husband and I do. It is not a sacrifice. The sacrifice is by the people who sit on their butts and don't stand up for the truth while knowing that they're compromising their own values and ideals. Those people are making the huge sacrifice. And it's not pretty, and I don't envy them, because I believe in morals and values, and I believe that we have to hold firm to those because that's what we're called to do. Otherwise, we're hypocrites. Hypocrite's a good one. I have hypocrite in here. And then at the end of hypocrite, I quote Hillary Clinton. She said this: no, we just can't trust the American people to make those types of choices. Government, which is, by the way, made up of American people, has to make these choices for people.
Wow. All right, we got to take a second break. When we come back, I want to talk about cancel culture and what it's meant to your family and what all Americans ought to be doing about it. So let's take a break. Welcome back. Where we left off with Sam Sorbo was we were talking about some of the words in her new book. And one of the words I want to ask you about, Sam, is canceled. And can you put it in use in your personal experience? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so canceled is, in a sense, it's a euphemism. It makes light of the situation. I call it digital assassination. They digitally assassinated President Trump, the sitting president of the United States of America. They digitally assassinated him. And believe me, if they could have, they would have done worse. I don't know if you saw, but the Kathy Griffin photo of Donald Trump's severed head, the fake severed head version, started recirculating when they did that, because the wheels are off now. The training wheels are off, and they're running full speed ahead. My husband was recently taken off of Facebook. They quote unquote canceled him. No, they digitally assassinated him, and then they buried the body, because what they did was they took him down. They did not tell him. They did not tell anybody. They made no excuse for themselves. They sent him no messages. They assassinated him in the middle of the night and disappeared him. Okay. Now he came out and he said, and he made it clear, and then he started a new page because he's like, well, I'll just start a new page. I mean, okay, the 550,000 followers were completely disenfranchised. Apparently, Facebook doesn't care about their feelings, nor does it care about your feelings, mind you. So he started a new page, and a friend of his posted, hey, if you're looking for Kevin Sorbo, he started a new page, click here. And Facebook sent him a message and said, you may not share this content. So we actually were making a joke about it. It's like the old Seinfeld episode. It's not enough to take the reservation. You have to hold the reservation. It's like it's not enough to have the Facebook page. You're supposed to share that. That's their whole a business plan, is that people share their pages. But no, not for Kevin Sorbo, which in my mind is discrimination. And I think he should start a discrimination suit against Facebook. And I think they have a lot to answer for.
Well, here's the scary thing. It's happened in other systems. Once you can digitally erase a person, it's not a far step to actually erasing people. China does it. China, you get one strike against you, and then they'll punish you a certain way under their social credit system. 2 strikes, and they'll cut you off from social media. 3 strikes, and you can't travel. What happens eventually is they just disappear you. You end up in a concentration camp or something else. And a society that will allow that is a society that will allow anything. That's why even the ACLU stood up for the Nazis in Skokie, Illinois. We hate what they're saying, but we will defend to the death their right to say it. That's no longer true. The left is assassinating people digitally, and they're not far from trying to erase them permanently.
Oh yeah, if they could erase Donald Trump, and thank goodness they can't entirely, they would for sure. So here's the problem: we need more people to join the fray. There were I believe it was in Iowa, but I know in Italy, the government said you can't open. If you're a restaurant, you have to stay closed. And the restaurants looked at each other and they said, "Look, if we stay closed, we're done." But if we open, they say that we're going to be done. But let's open, because if we all open together, can they really pick us all off? And so they did. They picked a day and all the restaurants opened, and the government said, gee, we can't close them all and we can't arrest them all. So I guess restaurants can be open now. If the right can organize, which is what the left does so brilliantly, if the right can organize even just a little bit, we will win, because we have truth on our side. And so I encourage people, like I live in Florida, masks are not mandated. Some stores insist on them, but I encourage people, go in a group without your masks on, if you're comfortable, obviously, and then wait until somebody tells you to put a mask on, and then decide before you go in. If somebody tells me to put a mask on, am I going to put it on? Am I not going to put it on? How far are you willing to take it? But I'm just saying, just try for a little bit, because it's like the elephant. The elephant, when it's a baby, they take a rope and they tie it, and it's a baby and it can't overcome the rope. And so it learns that when it has a rope tied around its leg, it can't go anywhere. As an adult, a string on an elephant's leg is enough to keep it in place. And this is what's happening to our culture right now. We're getting so used to wearing the masks that I'm annoyed. And I'm a little bit less optimistic about the future, because this is going on for so long. It was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And now it's slow the spread. And nobody bothered to ask, why slow the spread? What about speed the spread? Maybe the sooner we get through this, the better. Like what? Nobody was thinking.
Those are all legitimate questions. One thing that you said that's really important, though, Life exists. Upstream of life is politics. It tells us what we can and can't do, putting on masks. Upstream of politics is culture, and upstream of culture is entertainment. And I'm going to add one more. Upstream of entertainment is money. So you and Kevin, I saw a film that you did recently, Miracle in East Texas. Great family-friendly movie, took my kids to see it, loved it. And you did it on a relatively small budget, and you're going to get returns for your investors, the people who invest in it. There are a lot of people who want to do something, and they might not be willing to take their mask off, but they might be willing to make an investment in the future of America. So we've started, I've told you about it before, the NSIC Institute, and we're training financial advisors how individuals can invest in things that will impact and change the culture upstream of the political realm. And I think what you're doing is phenomenal, but it's going to take money. And I've talked with you all about the need for a studio concept so that you can't be canceled out, so you have your own studio. And really, I think you're true leaders in that effort. We've got to take the entertainment back so we can take the culture back. And so one of the ways we're going to do that is we're asking our viewers to get their financial advisor to go get training. And Sam, I've invited you before. I want to reiterate, we want you to come and teach our advisors what it's like about investing in entertainment. I know you left Hollywood, you went to Florida. I think it's a great thing. We want your help in doing that. You're just doing terrific work. I want to thank you. We're out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us in the Economic War Room. What's the best way for people to get a copy of your book?
samsorbo.com. I can personalize it for you there. And then I'm also encouraging people, go to sorbofamilyfilmstudios.com. Where, by the way, we do take donations, but do sign up for the email blasts that we give. It's not terribly frequent, and it's a great way for us to be able to stay in touch with you, because I don't think it's going to be long before Twitter does their own cancellation and stuff. So we are gathering together emails. We need to organize. We need to support each other. And thank you so much for having me on the program, because your program goes a long way to getting that done.
Well, thank you, Sam. And we're going to provide notes in our economic battle plan and links to both your websites that you mentioned, and people can get a free copy at economicwarroom.com. Remember, what we see as a marketplace, our enemies view as a battle space. This is Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room.